Hello fellow nerdlings! Welcome to my channel. My name is Hannah and I am the major floof in question, and thank you very much for taking the time to click on this video. So, as you may have guessed from the title, this is the first in a series of videos entitled Learning to Larp, which, as you may have guessed, is about the interactive hobby LARPing. So if you don't know what LARP is, it's basically like a massive game of adult make-believe that usually involves armour, weapons of some kind, magic, politics, characters, plot lines, big bads, and some sort of amazing battle at some point. It's really fun. In fact, it's kind of like Dungeons & Dragons the roleplay game, except in Dungeons & Dragons, in order to defeat some sort of massive evil elemental wizard, you have to roll some dice, and if your dice roll is high enough, and your score matches up with your opponent's, then you sort of beat him. But in LARP, in order to defeat a massive evil elemental wizard, you have to go onto a battlefield dressed as your character, in some form of armour, probably wielding some form of foam latex weapon, and you have to physically beat him with a stick. So before I go into the different types of LARP that I've come across so far, I'm going to cover some slightly negative stuff first, because I find that whenever you enter into a new scenario, you tend to hear the bad stuff first anyway. So I'll do that and then move swiftly forward. I find that sometimes LARP can get a bit of a bad reputation, and that's usually because of things like mainstream media and film and television. I've actually seen an episode of one of my favourite TV shows, Supernatural, in which the entire episode was focused around a LARP that was somehow demonic or something, if I remember rightly. And pretty much the entire episode was making fun of anybody who LARPed, which really sucked. Up until the end, when Sam and Dean realise just how amazing LARP is, and Dean does a really kick-ass speech in character that I'm fairly sure came from Braveheart. I might be wrong. My point being, a lot of the times LARPers get a bit of a bad reputation for being sweaty man-children, which I can tell you right now is 100% not the case. LARP is literally for everybody. I have met so many people while LARPing that have just changed my life entirely. I've met historians and architects and doctors and psychologists and artists and baristas. It's an amazing way to meet new people. And a lot of those people usually tend to be into the same things that you are, which is really lovely. In fact, I find that a lot of people use LARP as some sort of escapism. For example, a normal person might have a really horrible week dealing with the kids for 6 days, or have a terrible time at work and just be absolutely exhausted, and they might decide that this Saturday they're going to go out and watch a film and have dinner. For LARPers, our night of going out and watching a film and have dinner is basically going to a LARP once every 4 months. In fact, I'd be willing to bet that most people have gone to a LARP and not realised it. I mean, sure, there's things like D&D role-playing, that's LARP. Things like escape rooms, that's LARP. Any sort of roleplay that involves pretending to be somebody else is a LARP. You'd be surprised how many there are. So if you feel like you want to go LARPing but don't think you're the right kind of person, there is no right kind of person for LARPing. It is a hobby for literally anybody. And the LARP community is so accepting, so it's really easy to get into. But of course there will occasionally be a couple of people who think it's stupid or don't understand it and therefore act in ignorance and make fun of you. And oftentimes you just kind of have to, turn the other cheek and get over it. Which again is really easy to do within the LARP community, because not only are they accepting, most LARPers are the most supportive people I've ever met. We know what it's like to be picked on because of something that we like doing, so we tend to help each other quite a lot. So just to reiterate, no, we are not weird man-children that have an obsession with reliving our youth. We just really like having fun. But a benefit is, if people start making fun of you after you become a level 5 winter mage, you can just sort of use your awesome mage magic to and gone. It really works, I'm not joking. So with all of that nastiness out of the way, I'm going to cover the 3 main types of LARPs that I've come across in my time LARPing. And those are local, national and international. Now, all of these 3 LARPs have different benefits for the people playing in them, but they also tend to have different budgets. So if you're LARPing, you might want to consider your budget before you choose which LARP to go to. So we're going to start small and work our way up. So the first thing we're going to be talking about are local LARPs. I actually adore local LARPs for so many different reasons. Number one, the price tends to be a lot cheaper than national or international LARPs. A lot of local LARPs tend to price their tickets between, I'd say, £20 and £30. And while that might sound like a lot, LARPs only usually happen with each system every 4 months, so you do have quite a bit of time to get your money together. Also, another reason I love local LARPs is kind of in the title, they're local. They are specifically designed to bring people from your local area together, which I absolutely love. For example, I live on the borders of Oxfordshire and Northamptonshire, so I go to a LARP called Clans of Albion, a link to which I will leave in the description below. And I have met so many of my friends through Clans of Albion, it's kind of insane. It's all these local people that I didn't even know existed that I've suddenly met, and they have the same interests as me and the same sense of humour. So not only are we interested in the same hobby, we're kind of pretty good pals outside of it too, which is brilliant. And my third reason for really loving local LARPs is because of the small player base. Like, you tend to get really good plot for your character. Like, for example, the last Clans of Albion event I went to, there was meant to be 30 players, there was only 12 in the end, which might sound a bit like meh, but it was really good because those 12 players, our characters had to bond so quickly. I have made friends in character with a lot of people I didn't think I was going to because we were forced into that situation, because instead of 30 of us fending off like an army, it was 12 of us, which as you can imagine was pretty difficult. But at the end of the day, it was so worth it. I've got such amazing plots out of that LARP because it's such a small player base, and I'm really looking forward to the next event because of it. So the next type of LARP we're going to talk about are national LARPs. Now, as you may have guessed from the title, national LARPs are LARPs that attract people from all over your country. I go to a LARP here in the UK called Empire, which classifies as a national LARP, because it draws people from literally everywhere. I have met players from Scotland and Ireland and Wales, as well as from here in the UK, and it's really lovely because it just brings a whole new element of diversity to the LARP. Another thing about national LARPs that makes them different to local LARPs, because there tends to be a slightly bigger player base, like upwards of 1,000 sometimes, the ticket price can be a bit more pricey. So for example, if I'm using Empire as a basis, their base ticket is usually between 40 and 50, maybe even £60 depending on when you book. Of course, a benefit with national LARPs, because of the sheer amount of players they get, you do tend to have the ability to get things like student discount or child discount depending on what age range you're allowed to play. And one more big benefit of national LARPs is the sheer quality of them. Again, because you're paying a little bit more for your tickets and because there's a slightly bigger player base, usually there's a lot more to do with your character. So for example, your ticket will usually cover a camping space and catering. It may not do, but that's something you need to double check with on their website. Also, the sheer quality of things like set dressing and costume design for non-player characters is absolutely amazing, because again, they've got a slightly higher budget. The last type of LARP we're going to talk about today are international LARPs. Now, I haven't actually been to an international LARP yet because, and I'm not going to lie to you, they are expensive. One, because the sheer amount of travel costs to get there it's high. So for example, instead of me driving from Oxfordshire down to Devon for a LARP, if I were to go to an international LARP, I would probably have to get a plane to Berlin and then like drive to Poland. It's a lot. So if you're thinking about doing an international LARP, I would suggest thinking about your budget first, and if you have any other priorities that need to be filled. But the amazing thing about international LARPs are the sheer size and quality of them. Obviously, I don't have much of an insight into it because I've never been to one, but a great way to research international LARPs is to go onto YouTube and look up, I would recommend a company called Showpack Studios, because they are responsible for a Harry Potter themed LARP in a castle in Poland called College of Wizardry. It takes place as an actual castle. They also do a vampire LARP in Poland, which again takes place in a castle called Convention of Thorns. And I'm fairly sure they also do a Downton Abbey LARP, although I can't remember the name of that one. The amount of stuff you get to do in international LARPs is amazing. And combined with the fact that you get to LARP in a castle or in a mansion, I'm fairly sure there is one where you can actually LARP on a pirate ship in the middle of the sea. Oh my god, I so want to go to that. It's basically just a really good LARP experience. And most of the time, although the price is quite high, it's usually worth it. So, those are the 3 types of LARPs that I've come across so far. If you can think of any others, do let me know in the comments below. And bear in mind, within those 3 types of LARP, there are so many genres. Clans of Albion, that's fairly high fantasy. People get to play elves and dwarves and beastkin, which I actually play. And I play a really annoying beastkin in Clans of Albion. Then things like Empire, that's fairly high fantasy, but it's also a lot more political than most LARPs. There's slightly less battle-y stuff, like there's 2 battles that have a specific time, but a lot of the time you're working around the politics of the universe. There are also things like horror LARPs and sci-fi LARPs and post-apocalyptic LARPs. I'm fairly sure if you can think of a genre, there's probably a LARP to go with it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested in LARPing, please give it a go. Easiest way to do that is just to Google LARPs in and then put in your area code. Or you could keep an eye on this channel and hopefully pick up a couple more tips and tricks on how to have really good fun at your first LARP. So if you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing below, and until the next video, happy adventuring! Bye! So, if you hadn't already guessed by the title, this is a... Just wait for my brain to actually connect to my face. May take a while.